Hey, happy Thursday! By the time of this recording, it's a Thursday. I'm sorry, I got to bring up the migrant situation all over again. This time concerning the sanctuary cities. I've spoken many times on this subject as to why everything is falling apart, or at least it looks like it's falling apart over in the sanctuary cities, except for here in San Antonio. Here in San Antonio, we got everything, we got everything working together. We got everything, uh, excuse me, put together. Okay. Chicago is having reports of migrants fighting back, fighting other people, fighting the police, you know. New York has a couple of reports of the same thing, migrants fighting other people, migrants fighting the police themselves. On an education level, teachers in sanctuary cities are saying, well, we're not prepared for this influx of migrants to school them and all this other stuff. We only have so many translators. We only have so many this. We only have so many that. Blah 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 blah. And then you got people that are saying, and this is bullcrap right here. Work permits in sanctuaries like in New York and stuff. In order for migrants to start building their lives here, they need work permits, and the cities have no problem, like in New York and Chicago and LA and all them. They have no problem handing out work permits and everything. But there's all of a sudden this huge concern from residents and neighbors and all this other stuff that says, well, this will just be an incentive for more migrants to come, so we can't have work permits handed out, which is the most idiotic thing ever. Because the incentive to have migrants come over here isn't really being done by way of work permits. It's being done by the southern states that are collecting migrants and inappropriately busing them to the state, as opposed to handling their bizwax themselves, letting everybody know what's going on, and then transferring them letting them know that there's more migrants coming. I spoke about this on many different angles and many different times throughout the past 2 years, 3 years. Actually 2 years, because it didn't start until 2021. Here's the thing. Okay. Citizens or people fighting cops. One, that's common. It's not just a migrant thing. Like all criminals were behave themselves as soon as a cop said stop, or I'll say stop again. To think that a criminal, even an American one, would never fight a cop, but an immigrant would, is just stupid. Okay, that's the most idiotic thing ever. Second, if you ever go to YouTube and you look at fights that go on in foreign countries, even in Mexico, citizens will fight cops because they technically outnumber the cops. They're not used to seeing police break out the baton. In fact, the cops in Mexico and El Salvador and all these other South American cities, they're used to being so outnumbered by the citizens that they choose not to carry weapons at all, because of the fact that they could get jumped and have their weapons taken away from them and used on them. So cops usually don't walk around with not patrols or anything like that anyway. Like special units will, but an ordinary cop won't. So with those migrants who are citizens from all those other cities and countries, they come over here to America and they think that they can slap around a cop like it's nothing. Well, they're getting arrested and apprehended, and they're getting the chokehold, and they're getting the pepper spray, they're getting tased, and rightly so, because that's what cops do here in the States. But it's not an out of control issue. And everybody here's what's leading me to come up here to come up with common sense on common ground. Guys, it's just cops handling criminals the way they have to. Okay? And the criminals that happen to be migrants is irrelevant. Now, it'd be different if the cops actually ran away like the way they did in Uvalde with an American gunman, you know. Shame on the police. But as far as anybody can see, anybody normal, like anybody like you and I, we could see the cops are handling the migrants the way they're supposed to whenever a migrant fights the police, no differently than when the cops fight ordinary Americans. You know, it's that's what the law's supposed to. The law's supposed to slap them around, even if they are migrants. Okay, the teachers that are getting overwhelmed and all that, you know, I understand that they don't have enough translators, you know, but there is stuff like Duolingo and all these other apps where they can actually resort to learning English and then bringing it up to a teacher that could grade the work, you know. And then try to ask them to try again, you know, figure out how to say try again, you're getting close, you know, and all this other stuff. And there is translators that you could talk into your phone in English and will come out as Spanish. You know, it's not that it's impossible. They're just not prepared, and I understand that because most of the cities have their own selves to blame. Okay, and I'll get to that. Well, no, I'll get to it right now. They have their own selves to blame because these cities are calling on to the government saying, help us, fund us. And even though they're getting $1 billion here, $1 billion there, you know, these sanctuary cities are not working it to where they can owe their own people and have sort of like a payback system or pay reward system or IOU system with their own citizens. For example, here in San Antonio, and I'm going to miss this mayor that we've got right now. He was our freaking mom. Don't get me wrong. It was annoying, but he still took care of us. He took care of the homeless by having the city rent out a hotel and move them out of tent cities where they were subjected to victimization and move to a hotel with security and cops and medical people. Okay. In fact, by the time this situation got all resolved, the only people that were left out here in our streets were the ones with actual problems. Drugs, for one. One of the ways that you can go through the housing system, you gotta buy one of these rules, which is that you gotta be clean. And if you know anything about a drug addiction, it's easier said than done. You know, so you got most of the people that actually did go through the process, but then you got the ones that, you know, they've got a condition. You know, they got an addiction. They can't exactly just jump on board. Okay? That was handled. These guys that are going through these clinics and everything, and I know because I used to, when I was a rideshare driver, I drove a lot of people to the clinics. There was a lot of them that were losing that were getting evicted primarily because they still couldn't maintain their focus. They had, on the days that they were being evicted, they asked the security to actually hold off while they get their medication just so they could think straight to pack. Okay? Just so they could think straight to pack up their shit and finish their eviction. Okay? My mayor is our goddamn mother. But he took care of us. I'm going to miss him. This is his year. This is his year of retirement. I'm going to miss this guy. And back to the subject of the migrants that's going on right now. These sanctuary cities, they've got their own selves to blame. They're getting an influx of all this stuff. They should be working deals with all these hotel managers, those hotel managers, that resort that keeps running at it. That's, you know, has only in season and at times might have a great season, you know, impacted by 2020, the pandemic and stuff. You know, rescue that resort. Send some families into that resort. You know, just just surround it with fencing and barbed wire and put some guards. Ask the National Guard to put some guards there, so that way those migrants that are thrown into that resort or thrown into this hotel and thrown in that hotel for men only, hotel for women only, hotel for single moms, and all this other stuff. That way, when they're sectioned off, they're not getting picked off by traffickers. This, which leads me to the next subject. Back to San Antonio, we had migrants in San Antonio where traffickers were being busted. The migrants' families that paid thousands of dollars for them to be crossed across the border, they got apprehended. They got sent to a sanctuary city like San Antonio. Traffickers came up and said, well, I need these people because the other half of the deal is for me to set them up into this place, or for me to take them once they cross the border. I need to get paid also. And these were pimps. They had the balls to come up and say, well, I want these people now. They got arrested. Problem solved. You know? So when you've got these sanctuary cities with much bigger finances, much bigger, grander money, you know, because remember, San Antonio is only in the top 7. It's only inside the top 10. And lately we've been dropped back to number 8, I think, because of other cities that are getting more and more populated. So we're not as grand as Los Angeles. We're not as grand as New York. We're not as grand as Chicago. We're not up there like in Minneapolis. I think even they're a larger city than we are. They've got all that space. They've got factories that are shut down. They've got warehouses that are closed. They've got all this stuff. Dude, work a deal with those people. Work a deal with those landowners. Make a deal with them. Secure the place and then hire your National Guard, more police. That's more American jobs. More medical people. That's more American jobs. More translators. More American jobs. You know, you have your own selves to blame for this. And stop listening, which leads to the ones with the work permits, the coalition of workers and all this other crap. I forgot the title. But he says where it's all about common sense. Common sense says that if you give these migrants work permits, it's just going to be an incentive for more migrants to come over here and take all our damn jobs. No, stupid. If you have work permits, put them to use, yes. But at the same time, there's no way in hell some migrant that just comes across the border is going to be able to get work immediately, for one. And for two, replace a job that requires English. And for three, you know, once that migrant has any kind of complication, you don't even know if he's even going to stay there. You know, he's going to be moving. There's a lot of people that have a destination already. There are people that were bused to Chicago that said that they had people that could, sponsor them. But they were in Iowa, okay? They were in Florida. They were in Virginia. They were in one of them in Alabama. And I'm thinking that's a farm worker. But nevertheless, you know, there's no guarantee that they're even going to stay there. So these politicians that are afraid to tell these guys to clam up, you know, you got to stop being afraid of those people. And I understand over there in Staten Island or whatever island, people over there don't want them and all this other crap and everything and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but at the same time, they're not doing anything to make things easier. The city has no problem snubbing them off. What are you doing listening to some coalition? Because they've got contributions? Well, fine. Earn your keep. These guys want respect with workers and all this shit. Fine. Put them in charge of giving them jobs. And if they don't, well, then tell them to clam up. Because it's a responsibility. All that is a responsibility that technically they're still pushing onto the politicians. They're saying we're not going to be a part of it. Okay? Well, if they're not going to be a part of it, then why listen to them? Uh-oh, here comes my boss. Well, I got to go. Yeah, back to the subject. These sanctuary cities, they have their own selves to blame. San Antonio is proof of this. We had everything organized. We got right on top of it right from the get-go. That's exactly what these sanctuary cities should have done right from the beginning. Instead of going, oh, help us, president. Give us more money. Give us more money. No, dude. Work a deal. Hire people. You know? And get some shit done. Get your organizations done. All right, I'm done for the day. Hope everybody has a good day. We'll see you next time. This is Chris's Comments, signing out.